Welcome to Chik, the podcast where the girl with many titles talks about life, the good and the bad, and everything around it. We're going to sit, chat, share life stories and experiences, from business to relationship. Hi guys, welcome back to the Chik podcast. Today I'm joined by Catherine. Hello.
Hi.
Thanks for joining me today. So we're going to jump straight in, and I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself in a second. But then we do the intro is normally, God, my brain's not working because I've got such brain fog and I'm not feeling well. So the beginning is, if you've got a tip for the week or if you've got a struggle for the week, then let's know what that is. In the middle, it will be how are you actually feeling? And then we'll end with win of the week. So actually, if you introduce yourself first, we'll then do what's your struggle of the week or the tip of the week.
Okay, shall I introduce myself now?
Yeah.
And then do you want me to shall I just my name or like everything?
Everything. Who are you? What do you do? What makes you Catherine?
Okay. So hello. My name is Catherine, or Catherine Rees, I should say. I am from Belfast, and my main job is that I am an actor. That's my training. That's my first love. And I'm also a writer. I love comedy, and that's what I specialize in. I'd say specialize, but it's what I'm drawn to basically. And through that work, through my theatre training and working in that area, as a lot of people are probably aware, acting isn't always regular. And so through that work, I've also become a coach in sales and public speaking. And I have also got corporate experience. So I've done a lot of work with finance companies in Canary Wharf as well. So quite a varied background. But yeah, I would say acting and the kind of creative and coaching sides are what I love the most.
Oh, I love that. Okay, we'll come back to some of those in a sec. But what is do you have a struggle for the week or do you have a tip for the week?
I think because I do wear so many different hats, struggle of most weeks is just keeping afloat and making sure that I'm making progress rather than just being busy for the sake of it.
Yeah.
So, and also resting.
Yeah.
And actually scheduling in some time and not feeling guilty for not really doing much or not achieving things that you feel like you should have.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then I guess maybe my tip for the week, I guess it's Black Friday this week, isn't it? And I'm really trying to be intentional about what I need.
Yeah.
I really need like a new washing machine for my house, but I've been really procrastinating on it, and so I don't need. And so I'm I'm like looking at all these sales, like thinking, oh, should I buy this? And I think, I mean, buy it. I mean, I'm in the balance of enjoy life, but also I'm trying to be more conscious around it too, around like what I actually need. So yeah, I'd say that's my tip about just awareness.
Love that. Do you know what? Yeah. I think, funnily enough, my struggle of the week at the moment is, like you said, having that time to rest, because I came back from England, I'm not feeling well. And I think even just the fact that it's now getting into winter, so it's a lot colder here than it was in England. And I've noticed that since I've come back, I'm sleeping like, so I stopped using alarm clocks just over 2 years ago, whenever the pandemic started. So I track like the cycle of how my body feels, and I just let it sleep however long it needs to sleep. Yesterday, like this morning, I must have had nearly 12 hours of sleep, and it took Gareth to come in and give me a cup of tea to basically be like, you're asleep way longer than normal. Like, here's a cup of tea, and like you might want to get up and start doing some work. So yeah, I think my struggle at the moment is just allowing my body to just rest when it needs to rest, and understanding that, do you know what, this is just, it's winter, it's okay, and I'm still getting work done. I'm still gonna get what needs to be done, but yeah, keep being kind to yourself, because like I'm feeling ill on top of it being winter as well.
Yeah, I'm feeling similar where I am definitely sleeping a lot more. Like I'm sleeping in, and there's something about, I don't know where we've got this from, but if I don't get up, even if I have a day where I haven't got many plans, if I don't get up on a weekday or pretty early and have something booked or have something to do, whether it's I'm like a plan to, like I went for a little run this morning because I was like, right, well, I have to make the most I have this morning now. It's like I have to be really conscious about that. And because I think we're in winter, so naturally we probably, our bodies are probably like hibernation mode, but we're still in that hustle mode, or at least
Yeah,
feeling guilty for wanting to hibernate.
yeah, exactly. Which is crazy as well. But actually, so we're going into then what, like you wearing different hats on what you do.
Yeah,
I find it so fascinating. So we'll start with the acting. How did you get
yeah,
into acting, and what got you into
yeah,
comedy specifically? Because I think it's very rare. Like I know that we do hear, especially to me in Northern Ireland, it's rare that you hear of like female writers that focus on comedy. Like it's just I feel like whenever it's women, like it's America or somewhere else, not here. So how did you get into all that?
yeah. That's so interesting. Yeah. So I started acting as a child. My dad's side of the family are all media. So my granny was an actress. She was in a BBC radio series called The Archers. And my granddad was also a writer and a producer
Yeah.
in radio in Birmingham and Scotland. And then my uncle works for the BBC in the history side, or he was the head of history. And the my dad then moved over to Northern Ireland to work for BBC Northern Ireland. So that, but my dad wasn't ever in the acting side of things at all, or he was actually very quiet. So so it's, but I think then because I was quite a shy child, my mum thought that I would probably enjoy. I enjoyed writing stories a lot. I would sit in my room and write stories, and I'd won this competition that I'd written a story about a tree when I was 7, and then I won a competition to read it out in the radio. So I think my mom was thinking, okay, she probably it might be nice for me to do, but I should probably never realized that this would be. She was setting me on this path. Um,
Yeah.
so I started acting, and I started then going to different teachers and doing different shows in Belfast, and got into different dance and all sorts of things. And I knew from really young, and I would be quite indecisive as a person, but sometimes, but with this, I was always like 100% set that I was going to go to drama school, and that was what I wanted to do. And at that time, there was no drama schools in Ireland. I think there was Samuel Beckett in Dublin, but it closed down. So anyway, so I then auditioned for drama schools and went to one in England called East 15. Now I'm like skipping through a lot of auditioning for
Yeah.
drama schools is an ordeal.
I can imagine.
For me, it's just it was like at that time they now do more regional auditions, which is good, but a lot of them didn't do it. So it was like flights all the time. I
Yeah.
remember do you remember there was an ash cloud? And
Yeah.
like there was a crowd. So I remember like when I was auditioning, that happens would like stop me auditioning for a while, and all these, and that was like a freak thing that never happened again. So yeah, it was, but yeah, I went anyway. So I went to drama school in London called East 15. It's not East 17, which people think, because
Yeah.
I think like say that's that song. It's coming out to Christmas though, so it is a good song.
Yeah.
And went there for 4 years. So I did a 1 year course and then a 3 year, and then I graduated. And at the end of your training, so I did like a straight acting training. You can do musical theatre and things as well at different schools, but I always knew I wanted, like I'm not much of a singer, and I don't, it wasn't what I really wanted to do. So I focused on acting, and I've always, I feel like people always tell me that I'm a funny person, so I think that's kind of where comedy came from. And when I was at drama school, I think I thought of myself as what I really wanted was to be this like leading lady,
Yeah.
but then I found that when I did really small silly parts, people that had more impact probably because I had more freedom to create out of like a random servant in the background.
Yeah.
So then that was more fun for me to like completely make something up, and yeah, those parts I often really enjoyed. So yeah, so I left, and then we had a West End showcase, which they all do. It's a bit cattle market. It's like cattle market
Yeah.
basically, and then I left, and yeah, I've been working on and off. I would love to say I've been non-stop working ever since, but I don't think it's a reality of an actor. I've worked really, really hard to stay in the industry. I think a lot of people I know have just, it's not for everyone, and it's really tough sometimes. So
Yeah.
um and then I obviously with the writing side of things, I was encouraged to write at East 15, and I did a 1 year course. And after that 1 year, you can choose to audition or and stay if you get accepted, or you can choose to go. And for my audition, I wrote my own speech
Wow.
and lied and said it was because you're only meant to audition with things that are published.
Yeah.
So my teacher was like, just make up a name. So it was quite funny because then I would go and audition and people would be like, oh yes, I've heard of this play. It's like, you haven't, it's made up. But it's like, okay. So that's how I got in. And ever since, I mean, like kind of highlight wise, I've done the West End and I've toured India twice.
Wow.
Um, and done commercials, which has been nice, a nice bit of like traveling and things. Um, and I was the face of this German recruitment firm for a year.
That's cool.
Yeah, and then done like I think I love doing. There's a lot of fringe theatre I did as well in London, so like above pubs and new writing, and then more recently it's been screen, which I've really enjoyed as well in Northern Ireland mostly.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
how do you then find, because obviously, like you've said, you've not had the constant work from acting, and obviously at the beginning you'd said that like you do wear many hats. So what made you decide, you know what, I'm going to stick to wearing many hats rather than just focus on just acting? And how have you then found that whole process?
That's a good question. Um I think if you want to stay in acting, personally, for me, when I was at drama school, and I don't know if they do this now, I don't know if this is the kind of thing that gets thrown around because this was 2010 when people probably weren't as aware. But I remember the phrase being you either were commercially valuable or you weren't. And so if I was not commercially valuable as an actor, which I was told,
Wow.
which meant I couldn't fit in a box. I wasn't going to be the natural choice to be in Poldark or whatever. I wasn't going to be, you couldn't necessarily fit me in one box.
Yeah.
And
Okay, so apologies for those of you that are watching. You've probably noticed that I'm now in a different room. So my internet's decided it's gonna play up and do its own thing. So we're gonna carry on. So I was asking, what made you not want to just be like stick to just acting or just one thing?
mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you have to be adaptable basically. So my plan would always have been I just want to be an actor. Sometimes if I'm having a bit of a bad day and I'm like, I just want to act, I don't want to do any of this.
Yeah.
But um I think you need to be adaptable. And also for me in terms of writing, I've always been interested in writing anyway.
Yeah.
And I'm not the kind of person who can just sit and wait for auditions
Yeah.
to come, because sometimes they come and there's like 5 in a week, and sometimes it's like tumbleweed for ages. So
Yeah.
it's like buses. And I think you do just need to have your own projects that you are in control of.
Yeah.
Um, and that you have to give you some sense of creativity and control and an idea of what you want to do. And also I think I was saying before that in drama school, when I was leaving and in our final year, there was a term bandied around a lot, which was about being commercially valuable,
Yeah.
which means whether you fit into a certain box. So and with me, I was told I was not commercially valuable. So
Yeah.
whilst I had a regional accent, which made me slightly more interesting, apparently,
Yeah.
that nobody would really want to work with me because I don't fit into I'm not your typical romantic lead, but I'm also not ugly enough to be this kind of character, but I'm not this enough, or so you're always told you're not whatever, fill in the blank enough.
Yeah.
And then there's also the people that would maybe fit into one box, but who are actually really talented at comedy, but for example, they're not being seen for that because they fit in some box. And I think the idea was to kind of get you used to the fact that whilst you've been training and learning all these skills, that actually you might not use quite a lot of them because the industry will want to box you into some kind of thing. I actually don't think that's the case that much. I think I'd hope things were changing and more interesting choices are being made, but that was kind of what we were fed in 2010. And so basically I kind of always thought, okay, if I'm going to try and at least survive in this and try and make something happen, then I'm going to have to put the work in, and I'm going to have to make connections myself, and
Yeah.
make sure that and try my best to make work and find opportunities myself, and not just rely on my agent or
Yeah.
just hope for the best, because it's it's tough if you're doing that.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah. And then I never really intended on going into the corporate world. I think a lot of actors were just, I think, people just have to, everyone just has to find something to do
Yeah.
whilst you're resting, as they
Yeah.
say. So that was how that kind of came about for me. Whereas I'd been working with a director and she wanted me to work for free. And
Mm,
I just couldn't do it at the time. I was in London and I was like, I can't do it because I wasn't working on any other jobs. I'd finished
yeah.
working at school and it was summer. And she said, well, what if I get you this job that's part-time and then you can work with me? So that's how she kind of referred me on to this company, and then I
Yeah.
worked from there. So that's worked really well, but it was never an intention. I never even I I kind of got into acting so that I didn't have to do I could never really I couldn't imagine myself sitting behind a desk. It wasn't the
Yeah.
kind of thing that I wanted to do. But then it's actually really helped me having the balance of everything as well. So it's also like
Yeah.
really aided my career doing that.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Do you know what? I'm gonna come back into the whole like not fitting into one particular type of box because I'm starting to realize
Yeah.
that there's definitely a theme with the types of people that I really like bond with and just have that connection with. That's the common theme in general. Like everyone I've had on the podcast so far, and there's a reason why I've, like you guys are the people that I've reached out to. It's because we don't like all of us don't seem to fit into this box. We've all gone. Do you know what? Just because we don't fit into this one box doesn't mean that we're not going to do what we want to do. But I think that again, everyone that I've had on, no one gives themselves enough credit for how difficult that can be and like how much effort it takes to first of all not listen to what the world's saying, but still find that confidence in yourself to do you and find your happiness. Because there'll always be people in your ear saying things like my parents are always like, "Oh, like get a secure job," and it's
Yeah.
all completely out of love, and I know it is. But sometimes
Yeah.
I just feel sometimes like you just don't realize that like me getting a proper job in inverted commas is like that doesn't work for me. I can't do 9 to 5. I can't sit at a desk. Like today, like I said, I couldn't sleep. Sorry, I
Yeah.
was asleep too long. So if that was me doing 9 to 5, having to wake up to an alarm, having to be in the office at a certain time, would not work. Whereas now I'm like, actually, I've got a few meetings this afternoon, and I'm scheduling the day so that it's more afternoon stuff I've got to do because I work in the evenings. So yeah, we'll come back to that in a second. But right now,
Yeah.
we're in the middle. And how are you actually doing?
Pretty good. So actually, I'm not sure if I'm answering another question that you were maybe going to ask me another point, but um, it was my birthday at the weekend.
Oh, happy
And
birthday for the weekend.
thank you. Well, yeah, and usually that around this time it would make me freak out a little bit about have I achieved enough this
Mm,
year? Where was I last year and where am I this year?
yeah,
And also for some reason I'm like, well, 17-year-old me thought by this age I'd have this, and this. And it's like,
yeah.
well, I mean, 17-year-old me didn't foresee a global pandemic, so I can't let my life be ruled by that.
Yeah,
But like all these thoughts would usually come in, whereas this year it hasn't really happened. I've kind of just come and gone and been like, yeah, that was a nice day. Okay, I'm a different age, cool. Ate a lot of food, had some, it's fine. Like so
yeah,
that's so I'm feeling pretty good. But yeah, as I say, I think I'm good. I think I'm still struggling with balance all the
yeah,
time. That's a constant thing
yeah.
of am I moving the needle enough in one area?
Mm,
Am I just treading water in lots of different things, or am I actually making progress in the areas that I really want to be progressing in?
yeah,
And I have to have certain things in place in order for me to do that. So I know that there is going to be certain work that I have to do in
yeah,
order for me to like live.
yeah,
But then I need to also, it's energy. It's actually like where I'm allocating my energy, really. So that's like constantly where my conflict is
yeah.
in myself. But no, pretty good to be honest.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, pretty good.
oh, yeah. I'd say the same. Do you know, I came back a couple of days ago, and I was laughing because I was saying, so I'm starting to think that I might be a bit of an empath. And I was saying that like there are situations I get in where I just end up feeling really like overwhelmed and super
Yeah.
drained. And I'm really lucky because I'm so close to my brother. Like my brother is has always been my safe space. And this was the first time that I've been away from Gareth since we started dating, where it's like because now we've been spending more and more time together. It was
Mm.
the first time I was away from him where I was actually just so excited to get home because as much as I love being back home in England and seeing family,
Mm-hmm.
but managing that and the business and just life because my routine has to change. Like you know what it's like when
Yeah.
it's a completely different kind of life. I'm really lucky in the fact that I get to be a nomad and I get to work from anywhere. But sometimes I
Yeah.
don't realize how much life that sucks out of me. And I got
Yeah.
home and I was like, I think a part of that is like why I feel so tired as well as contributed to just the fact of being switched on, like completely on for
Yeah.
like the last week. But
Yeah.
I got back and I had my niece's first birthday. I spent this year seeing
Oh,
her, and there were just loads of things that I'm looking back
yeah.
at now, and I'm in such a good like headspace that even the things that would normally have bothered me, like you're saying, where you look back at a year and I'm planning things for next year for the business, where I'd be panicking. I'm like, actually, there's still so much to do. Like age is
Yeah.
nothing. Like thinking about kids and settling down, all of those things I'm now looking at and going, for the first time in my life, I'm not panicking about any of that. And to get to this
Yeah.
point when a few
That's so
months,
good.
yeah, to get to this point when a few months ago it was just, especially like when I broke up with Sean, everyone was like, "Oh, but when are you going to settle down? When are you going to have kids?" Like all of that outside noise was coming in, making me think that was my problem. And now I'm like, actually, no, I've got my niece, and thank God I get to give her back and be like, "Love you all.
Yeah.
I'm off back home to
Yeah.
sleep and do nothing." Yeah, I feel
That's
very
what
happy.
really, that's what I find so difficult about being like, as soon as I was in my late 20s, and this is actually my friend Alice and I have written a play about this kind of topic,
Oh, love it.
um, about the fact that like the noise gets so much louder around when you're having a baby,
Yeah,
whether you're gonna have kids, like around late 20s to early 30s.
yeah,
But I know so like my mom had me quite late on. I know so many people who have had kids late on. So I've like in the back of my head, I've never, I don't know. I obviously would want to have children eventually, but it's not like
yeah,
something that I'm pushing towards. But then you are aware of like the body clock. So
yeah,
it's like it's really hard like not to buy into that noise. But
yeah,
yeah, it's so tough when that happens. So when people say that that's happening to them too, it provokes me because I'm like why is it anyone's business? But I
yeah.
think it's just this constant fear around time running out, which is not helpful for anybody.
Exactly, but there were so many different ways. Like I was watching, I don't know if you've seen From Scratch.
No.
It's on Netflix. It is absolutely amazing. And spoiler alert if anyone hasn't watched it, and I'm not going to give too many spoilers, but the whole premise is this man and woman meet, and they just have a life that things happen, and it's stuff that's out of their control. And there's one point where they have to look at the fact of how they want to have children. And I
Yeah.
watched that, and I was like, actually, that's a very good point because like it doesn't mean that you have to have a child biologically. You could choose to go through adoption. There are so many different ways that people put it down as, oh, have a child. But I think it's interesting you even saying about like in your like the people around you have had kids later on in life. I think for me, a lot of the people have had them earlier on in life because they focused on being a mom and that first, and then maybe either went back and looked at the career,
Yeah.
or they then never went back to the career. Whereas my
Yeah.
thing's always been, I want to have a career and know myself before I bring a child into
Me
this world.
too.
Because
Yeah.
I know that I've got trauma and all these other things that I don't want to throw onto my child. So I wanted to do it the opposite way. So sometimes it freaks me out because then I'm like, oh, but my mum had me when she was what, like 27, and or yeah, I think she was about 26. But anyway, by the time she was 30, she'd had two kids. My auntie was the same. I think my auntie was like 26, 27 by the time she had like my cousins. So I'm just used to being around people that have had kids young.
Yeah.
But looking at my brother and my sister-in-law, I love them and like they've made a choice that they're comfortable with. But I look at that situation and I just go, I absolutely adore your situation. I adore the fact that
Yeah.
you have a niece that I love more than life itself. But could I be doing that right now? Do I want to be doing that right now? No. And fair enough,
Yeah.
if you're young, good on you. But actually, I'm still not ready for that.
Yeah. And I know, and then when I would be similar, I would think in a similar way. But then when I've spoken to say like my brother, for example, has four kids and he says he was like, well, you're never going to be ready. And he had his quite, I'd say like 27, 26. But, and a lot of my friends now have children as well. But I also think being in London affected, because I lived in London for 11 years and I'm recently back in Belfast. And the difference is massive
Yeah,
because, and there's no right or wrong. It's
yeah,
just the people that I know in London. I don't know if it's the fact that maybe like just even living there is more expensive and
yeah,
everyone might be there, you know, for a career. Or I don't know, there's so many different factors.
yeah,
But kids aren't really, I don't know anybody in London with kids at the moment,
yeah,
any of my friends. I know a few of my friends have recently just got on the property ladder, which
yeah,
has been in London, which is a huge achievement.
yeah,
But a lot of people, you know, have a lot of different people have different people are changing careers, people
yeah,
are studying, people are, you know, freelancing and, you
yeah,
know, traveling and so there's like such a variety. And
yeah,
then I think because Belfast is probably more achievable, well, certainly was more achievable for me to buy here.
yeah,
It
yeah,
means that
same.
those goals are easier within reach quicker.
Yeah,
If you didn't have kids, it's like it's almost, I wouldn't want to say easier because I'm sure there's,
yeah,
it's not my experience, but um, it just seems that like maybe yeah, I don't know if that's what it is, but I know that it's easier to get on, not easier to get on property. I suppose it's just less expensive maybe
yeah,
here.
yeah.
So I think that's how people
So true.
live, you
Yeah,
know. So I've definitely found that like a lot. It's yeah, just different mindsets.
yeah,
But
that's so true. But I also find like even just being here and watching the way that I suppose, like you've said, like I suppose for me, Sheffield is different because yes, it's busy, but it's not as busy as London. But when I look at, like, I put a post out the other day when it was actually my niece's birthday, saying it's really funny because what 16 years ago, I can't even remember where I was, but I met some guy in business, and I remember him asking me like, "Oh, what do you want to get out of your career and out of life?" And I was like, I want to be able to work for myself. I want to choose when I work. I want to choose when I have kids. I want to have a career, a life. I want to be in love. I want to have a best friend. Like from back then, I knew that I saw the world in just a slightly different way and I wanted to create
yeah,
that world for myself. And he was like,
yeah,
"You do realize you can't have it all?" And that was 16 years ago. And I was like, I wrote this post on LinkedIn and I was like, it's really funny because my niece's first impression of life is going to be that for her first year, I did actually have it all because I made sure that, like, I was traveling the time that she was supposed to be born, and I made it a point to be home from Abu Dhabi by the time she was being born. She decided to be late, but in between her due date and her actually being born, I came back from Abu Dhabi, went to Paris, and then went back to England. So, because I flew from Abu Dhabi to England and then came back home to Ireland, Northern Ireland, and then went to Paris, then came back home and
yeah,
then went back to England. That was in the space of like two and a bit weeks. And to me, the fact that I've then been able to spend a year where I've flown back and forth, they came here once, I think, and then they're coming at Christmas. So I think altogether I've maybe not seen her like 3 months out of the whole year she's been born. Is
yeah,
just like younger me would not even believe that that's how I'd done it. But to me, I'd imagined that that'd been me having kids, whereas now it's like actually no, that is me having it all in my way. And she's
yeah.
my niece. I don't need to have children to do that, but I've proven that actually you can have it all. So I need to like unlearn some of the things that maybe are still subconsciously in my mind.
Yeah, yeah, it's about, it's so true. It's about like for some reason like it's learning what we feel like we've learned is what work is. So you
Yeah,
and a lot of it is, you know, and to be fair, like weirdly, like my dad, when I was growing up, I watched him. He didn't have a regular job in
mm,
terms of regular hours, and he
yeah,
would be traveling a lot and things. So I don't know if that's like influenced me where a lot
yeah,
of people would be like, if you're doing theater, God, you work in the evenings. And it's like, yeah, great, cool, I love theater. Like I
yeah,
don't honestly, I that doesn't bother me, but there is something sometimes niggling me where I'm like, if I have a day where to myself, I'm like, I need to be working. So
yeah,
there is something like I that thing about not having it all actually reminded me as well that I don't know if this is why I'm in my mind somewhere shelved having children for a while. Not that it's not in the it's not in my plans like
yeah,
lately at the moment, but obviously I would like that in the future. But I bumped into an actress in London when I just graduated, and she's an Irish actress who is brilliant. And I'd watched her show. It was at the National, and I
Yeah.
think somebody I was with knew her, and she said, "Oh, stick it out in London till your late 30s because that's when all the other actresses will fall off the radar, and then you'll get all their work." And I
Uh,
was like, "Oh, that's such a." I didn't think that was very. And now at stays, and you were like, "That's crap advice." Like,
yeah.
I don't want to. Like, what if I want to do that? And also,
Yeah.
it's now. I think nowadays, like, it's different. That was again maybe 2014, so not that long ago,
Okay,
really.
yeah.
But um there was that, and so you do internalize those things where I'm like, right, well, I'm either going to have to choose then between whether I want this and
Yeah.
this. But actually you can do it. I think even if
Yeah.
you chose to have a family now, you could work it up. There would hopefully be support network there for you to do it. I would hope,
Yeah.
as if for all of us, like, hopefully. But I mean, I know it would be tough, but it's just, yeah, it's mad, like, when people say things like that to you and you kind of carry it around without really
Yeah.
realizing.
Yeah. So true. And that's, so how have you then, like, how do you find, obviously, because at the moment, like, you're still writing, like, is there anything, actually, because that's, like, we want to promote what you're working on as well. So is there anything
Oh,
specific that you are working on that we should know about or keep a lookout for?
yeah, good. Well, writing wise, I have a series. I'm working with a company in Manchester who are brilliant, and I've written a comedy pilot for them. So that's kind of doing the rounds at the moment at different channels.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm kind of with writing in terms of screenwriting and the industry side of things. I always think, okay, I feel like I'm very much a beginner still, even though I know what I like. I know the work I like, and I know what I like to write, and I know the work I like to see.
Yeah.
But uh, it's just one of those. I've kind of written it now, and then it's like, right, well, how it's received is kind of out of my control. So it's interesting now that that's out. Some channels being like, that's not risky enough, and some saying that's too risky. So
Mm,
it's exactly the same thing. So it's that kind of, again, that thing where you're like, okay, so this might not fit into a box, or it's that process really. So
yeah.
that's happening at the moment. And then I have a short film that I wrote that I'll also be in January, which I'm
Amazing.
excited about. Yeah, and I used to do synchronized swimming when I was a teenager,
Oh,
and
wow.
yeah, so there's going to be an element of that in it, and so it's going to be filmed in a swimming pool. So it was meant to be filmed October time, but will be coming up. Will be now filmed in January, just because, like, the actual um logistics of getting a swimming pool is kind of tough to film. But I've got a producer and director and things for that, which is amazing, and I'm really looking forward
Amazing.
to it. And yeah, so um that's something I'm looking forward to in the new year. And then I'm doing some work next week for, I don't know if I'm allowed to say, not that it's mega exclusive, it's for like a large global corporation. But
Oh,
this place it's weird. It's, well, I shouldn't say it's weird. It's odd that I suppose acting comes up in these areas where you wouldn't expect. So the
yeah.
director I worked with is working on this project with them where they are doing a lot of internal educational work for their employees, but they want to do it via comedy sketches. So I'm
Oh,
going to be doing,
nice.
yeah, yeah. So and this one is about cybersecurity.
Nice.
So yeah, and like it's and then I also filmed. So I was about to say this is the third extraterrestrial character that I filmed in like a year, or
I
so I'm
think
like, I look like an alien. Like, is somebody just not telling me something? But like, yeah, I've got a lot of alien parts recently, and I'm not complaining. So
that's class.
yeah, weird. People have like these weird niches, and maybe that's my box. I don't know, aliens. But I'm happy to do it. More than happy to do it. It's a comedy. It's really well written. It's comedy, and it's the
Yeah.
director of work before, so very happy. And yeah, it should be fun. But the last kind of alien I played was I filmed for a BBC. It's a CBBC series called Nova Jones, and I
Oh,
did
and is it
that in the
out?
spring. So they filmed series two and season three together. So I
Okay.
think they put season two on BBC iPlayer, but not series three yet. So I did an episode of that. Um, which fun. Yeah, so hopefully that'll be good. But it's kind of interesting when you film things, you often will film like quite a lot, or and then you're never quite sure how much of it will make the cut,
Yeah.
just because of storyline and things like that. So
Yeah.
I've filmed for it, and yeah, just doing the audition rounds, hopefully hoping that something will land. The good thing is about Northern Ireland is that there's just I love the crews here. I think
Yeah.
it's such a good place for filming because in
Yeah.
general there's so many options for locations in terms of
Yeah.
like countryside. You're not too far from the sea.
Yeah.
You've got so many different things and studios, and then like that's partly why I'm back in Belfast because the
Yeah.
filming work is so good.
Yeah.
So I hope they'll apparently there's some projects coming up next year that I'm hoping I can get seen for at least.
Oh,
Um,
that's so exciting.
yeah, so but if not, my writing partner and I, Alice, we are hatch artists at the Mac in Belfast.
Oh,
So we have that
amazing.
year, yeah, and they helped us develop a little bit of our comedy play. So we're
Yeah.
continuing behind the scenes when we can, because Alice also has her own projects. So
Yeah.
when we can, we'll also be working on that together. So there's things on the go. It's
Yeah.
kind of
Loads.
yeah, just bits on the go, yeah. So hopefully it will all come together and
I'm
you'll
sure
see
it
it.
will. But you know
Yeah.
what's so exciting as well? Because as you were talking about the alien bits, G loves anything to do with aliens. But then I realized, so it made me realize that apparently so do I, because I'm obsessed with like Marvel and quite like a few of my favorite movies. Maybe I focus on them because they've got like a romantic story or there's something in there that's I've picked out. But actually, turns out I really like alien movies. So yeah, link everything that like send me everything that you've been working on and everything that you are working
Yeah.
on. Yeah, we'll keep sharing it because yeah, it's just I think like you said, like Northern Ireland at the moment is such a special place because even I've noticed that in some of the work I'm getting as an influencer, like one of the ones I've got in December, I'm going to the Game of Thrones the studio tour. They've
Oh,
invited me as like
cool.
press and influencer type thing, and I was like, these are the type of things you see in London because I was freaking out and I was like, I miss out on so many opportunities because I'm not back in England. Because even clients, a lot of my stuff that I'm doing is with people based back there. Whereas now things are starting to pop up here. Where I'm like, actually, because this is like that'll be their global studio, so there'll be people flying across the world
Yeah.
to see this, and I get to be one of the first people to show them like what this place
Oh,
looks
that's
like and
so
what it can
cool.
do. Yeah. So yeah, I
That's
definitely
so
agree that
cool.
NI is definitely the place to watch because there's like you said, there's just so much here and so much is going to be going on over the next few years that if you haven't been here and you've not visited, you definitely need to.
Yeah, and I do find the casting directors here, for me, more, I don't know, open, I suppose. Not to completely I haven't, but in England, I think maybe it's just that it's so saturated, and over here it
Yeah,
is saturated. But um, yeah, I've just found that the casting, sometimes when I watch things from casting directors in Northern Ireland and Ireland in general, I'm like, oh, that's interesting, or oh,
yeah,
and then so I like the work that they're doing, and I think
yeah,
Ireland's always been a really rich place for writing as well.
yeah,
So yeah, I'm hoping that there's it's only ever going to get more better. And I mean, I would still go as anyone actor would go anywhere to work. Like
yeah,
I'd literally would work in Timbuktu if it was, I don't know where
yeah,
that is, but anywhere. So yeah, so yeah, but I think Northern Ireland is really good for it. And like even next week, I've got this I think I'm going to be getting prosthetics on my face, and
oh,
the same lady that did the same makeup artist, prosthetics artist,
yeah,
that did my last Alien is doing this one, and so I'm really excited because then I get to
oh,
see her again, and she was
yeah,
really talented, and so
yeah,
there's loads of talent here, and people are so think I've gone off on a tangent, but anyway, it's yeah, lots going on. But
yeah,
actually, what you said about I was going to pick up on the audiences as well because I
yeah.
think I did this another thing on not to completely plug on the things I'm doing, but I
Oh,
did
keep
this
going.
comedy pilot for BBC iPlayer, which is called it's on BBC iPlayer at the moment, um, and that took a long time to be released,
Yeah,
and I think there is some I don't want to caution, or I don't know the full ins and outs of it, but sometimes in general, whether it's someone I'm speaking to in theatre or somebody I'm speaking to in the film or TV industry about things coming out in Northern Ireland, there's a caution around Northern Ireland audience, like, oh, I don't know if the Northern Ireland audience would like that. And it's like, I don't understand. Like the people I know in Northern Ireland are really funny,
Yeah,
really like if anything, and also Northern Ireland's been through enough that we can handle a bit of offensive comedy, I think.
exactly.
But
Yeah, I
then,
completely agree.
but then I also think there's like, yeah, so I understand in the sense of needing to make sure that audiences are happy, but then there's a caution around it as well, which I have noticed, which I hadn't
Yeah,
picked up on in London. And
yeah,
yeah, I'd love to see more boldness in the choices in general because I think a Northern
yeah.
Ireland audience would love it.
Yeah,
I
so
don't even know
true.
what they are, but whatever the imagination, yeah. So
Yeah,
it's just
that's so true because like I'm not like in TV, but I've shot like a pilot and I've worked on a few things before where people have got in touch with me and said, right, we're working on this project. We'd love for you to be involved. It's something to do with TV, but it's not picked up here because it is just seen as being a little bit too one way. And I'm like, yeah, but this is like if
what
this
is
is
that?
England, you'd expect to see something similar. And I've
Yeah,
actually seen similar shows coming out that were filmed in England, and I'm like, but that just doesn't make sense. But yeah, hopefully people do realize that like you've said, there are so many people here that are just so open-minded, and diversity
yeah,
starting to grow. Like you have to push things in some kind of way, and there'll always be someone that doesn't
yeah,
like something for a particular reason. But as long as you're not offending people for the sake of offending people, then it's completely fine.
yeah. Exactly. Yeah, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's still like the religious influence in general of both sides
Yeah,
or what. I honestly don't know. But most people I know, like of many ages, are
yeah,
would love to see a bit more variety. But again,
yeah,
I can't speak for the whole of Northern Ireland, and I'm
yeah,
not a commissioner, so I don't know what the deal is with that. But it's only just like what feedback I've heard in the past few couple
yeah.
of years. Oh, this the Northern Ireland audience, and it's like this big scary beast that don't like anything, and I don't, I don't know what that is, but
Yeah,
yeah, so it's interesting. But hopefully, yeah, hopefully that will as because Northern Ireland is thriving in that. So I'm
yeah,
like, I don't understand why we're thriving, making all this work, but then we're not. Where there's a caution around
yeah.
showing something. So that's like where, and maybe I just need to educate myself a little bit more on that. But that's my
Well, I
experience.
think it'll be interesting to see how things do start to develop as well, because I think there's so much more creativity on places like online. You look at TikTok, Instagram, and
Yeah,
places where people get that freedom. And I think the more you start to see people from an eye creating certain things and certain topics, I think it's going to hopefully start to open the doors and start to show people that actually, yeah, some of this it is okay. It's people are
yeah,
receiving this really well.
yeah, for sure. Hopefully,
Yeah,
I'd love to see more. And I think when things do come through where it is slightly maybe different to what people have seen, it's like it's all anyone's talking about, and you're like,
yeah,
that's so it's like people get really excited about it, and
yeah,
so you want it to kind of grow. But yeah,
yeah,
I hope yeah, that's the thing. We have access to it all now, even with like Netflix and things who
yeah.
can have public to take more risks.
So true.
Um, so hopefully then that exposes everybody to more stuff in general. But
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, we'll see.
Exciting. But actually, right, so we're coming to the end. Like I've completely overran because I love talking to you and I can't wait to do more.
I
But
finished. I was so happy as well. But this has been great. I've had a lovely time.
oh, I'm glad you enjoyed it. Okay, so we're gonna end on your win of the week, and like, I think you said you'd already touched upon it, but yeah, end on the win of the week, and then we'll say goodbye.
Yeah, win of the week is not analyzing. So it was my birthday, and yeah, again, the win of the week would probably not be sitting down and like if I think about where I was last year, and last year, I remember my birthday, I was panicking about a few things, and I was like, oh
Yeah,
my God, what am I going to do? And is this where I want to be at this age? And
yeah,
basically, my win is that I didn't do that this year, and I've
yeah,
just had a nice time, and um, I'm not panicked about it at the
yeah.
moment. So that's my win, and this being on this is a win.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah,
Yeah. I think my win is, yeah, just realizing that I can have it all. I've proven it to myself, even though I didn't see it myself. And like doing things like this, because this definitely is such a passion project. I want to put more into it where I'm trying to like grow it more and more. But I think it's every week it's just a reminder for me that I'm surrounded by such amazing, inspiring people. But again, there are so many people out there that I think you can like the whole audience can learn from. But I really enjoy seeing how people kind of react to the podcasts as well. So yeah, my win at the moment is just the fact that I've picked something to do that's passionate, like I'm passionate about, but it's being received in such a great way that yeah, I think it's just making me think there's so much I can do for 2023 that maybe I'd limited myself in the past to thinking that it wasn't going to be a thing. So yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah, even me talking to you in this past few minutes has been really inspiring for me. And so now I'm like, right, this is what I'm doing this afternoon, and I'm
Yeah,
feeling more
yeah,
inspired. So it's just like meeting like-minded people who are
yeah,
just like open to so many different things that's
yeah,
so helpful for me,
exactly.
and
So
just the
true.
diversity of people. And yeah, even just hearing, even though we aren't in exactly the same industry, like here
Yeah,
I could chat to you all day.
yeah, same.
So yeah, it's great. I find it really inspiring.
Oh, I love it. Me too. But thank you so much for being on. I am going to link everything that you do in, obviously, the links below. If people are watching this, please subscribe. If you are listening to this, please make sure that you give us ratings and feedback and ask loads of questions, because definitely you are another person that I'd love to get back on, just because you've got such varied experience and it's across different sectors that I think there'll be things that we touch upon in the future that are really going to be helpful. It's not just going to be the chat. So yeah, thank you so
Yeah,
much for being
definitely.
on.
I'd love
Lovely
to.
meeting. Love
Thank you
it.
so much. It's been such a pleasure. Thank you.
Oh, I'm glad.